Hello, I'm Rod Pinkston and welcome to another episode of JAGER PRO. Oftentimes landowners do the oddest things thinking they're helping us, but they're actually interfering with our operations. These topics fall under the category of landowner interference, and I'll cover them in this week's basic training segment. I'll also remove another sounder from this property using the most efficient process and products while teaching the art and science of integrated wild pig control. Integrated wild pig control is a strategic approach using a series of innovative control methods and technologies implemented in a specific sequence based on seasonal food sources. Emphasis is placed on efficient removal of entire sounders at one time to eliminate escapes, method education, and future reproduction. Control strategies must continually change throughout the various seasons to effectively target adaptive survivors. The best way to describe landowner interference is when the person who hired you to perform integrated wild pig control on their property participates in various activities without your knowledge, especially when their involvement is counterproductive to the process and prevents your mission from being executed properly. The most innocent interference comes from basic human curiosity. Professional hog control operators will answer every landowner question so they have realistic expectations and fully understand the entire process. A daytime observation is not a crisis, but problems arise when the landowner visits too often, visits at night, or starts improvising their own strategy. There is no excuse for visiting a trap at dusk, making noise, and leaving scent, which could alter a sounder's feeding pattern. An even worse possibility is visiting the trap at dusk with dogs and letting them soil the area with their urine and scent, or possibly chasing a nearby pig. Here's the same dog soiling a nearby bait site during daylight. Many rural landowners allow their dogs to roam free at night, which is a terrible mistake during winter baiting and trapping operations. Catching a single while chasing 20 pigs away from a trap site is foolish and a waste of time and resources. This landowner thought he was being helpful by adding corn on the cob under the spin cast feeder. It is impossible to condition pigs to trust the feeder as a daily food source when he's providing mobile meals ready to eat. Every pig in the sounder picks up an ear of corn and takes it to the woods, which is just the opposite of what we are trying to accomplish. Observe the tripod feeder in the background. This landowner didn't think spreading 500 pounds of supplemental feed on his December dove field would make any difference to the 12 pigs using the feeder every night. Shooting around bait sites and trap enclosures is a huge problem. Is killing this squirrel 50 yards from a trap within 2 hours of dusk more important than possibly spooking a dozen adult pigs during the trap conditioning process? Watch this sounder's reaction when they hear a single gunshot in the distance. Not only did shooting a single from this bait site spook 4 other pigs from a nearby trap site on Valentine's Day, but it took another 2 weeks for this sounder of 11 to return. We arrive at 1518 to build a single gate flex panel trap enclosure and depart at 1705 when the task is complete. All 11 pigs arrive the next morning for a 100% capture within 18 hours of building the trap enclosure. Adding these 11 to the original 4 spooked on Valentine's Day, plus this pregnant sow's 6 fetuses, equals a total of 21 other pigs negatively impacted by a single gunshot. There was no strategic reason to shoot this sow, as she could have been trapped with the other 11. Several landowners want to euthanize pigs in the trap themselves after a capture. This is usually very helpful to hog control operators, as long as we receive good photos and data for our harvest efficiency report. Problems arise when landowners improvise and change our process. It's great when people use the opportunity to put some wild pork in their freezer, but it is never a good idea to field dress pigs and leave multiple gut piles at the trap site. Watch what happens to this area of the photo the next day. It begins with a few vultures, then more arrive and begin perching on feeders and gates, leaving their foul-smelling excrement everywhere to damage, stain, or rust expensive equipment. This is not the best strategy for conditioning another sounder to the trap enclosure. We understand most landowners have good intentions and are not purposely trying to sabotage our mission. Yet, the examples used in this segment were real and delayed captures for several days or weeks while clearly wasting my time and their money. Most of these situations can be avoided with thorough communication, so landowners have realistic expectations and fully understand the entire process. This week's mission will focus on removing another sounder from the northern neighbor's property. From past experience, we already know this hammerhead will not follow directions. He was experiencing rooting damage in his dove field, but did not have any photo intel for us. I decided to use my thermal monocular to gather intel and located these 12 pigs feeding. Now, an amateur would shoot at this sounder, only killing 2 or 3. A professional uses the opportunity to gather intel, understand their movement pattern, and devise a plan to capture all 12. I returned the next morning to erect a tripod feeder where the pigs had entered and exited the northwest corner of the field. I also locate a trail intersection at North Pond, which is a half-mile northeast of the dove field. This will allow me to erect another tripod feeder to begin collecting intel in this corner of the property. To view the entire 30-minute episode, please tune in to RFD-TV. Our weekly show airs Tuesday nights at 9:30 p.m. Eastern, 8:30 p.m. Central. Channel 231 on Dish Network and Channel 345 on DirecTV.